just recently had a New Year's Eve. We celebrated that arbitrary division of time into one and another, a 12-month segment. So to celebrate or mark that arbitrary division of time where we look back and forward, I thought it would be great to talk to our good friend Winnie Wong. Winnie is somebody I got to know a few years back. She's the co-founder of People for Bernie. She is, according to this, and I didn't know this, and I'm going to have to ask her about this. I knew she was an organizer with Occupy Wall Street and Occupy Sandy, but first of all, Winnie, thanks for coming on the program. And secondly, this says you created the Feel the Burn hashtag. Is that true?
Yeah, I think that is true. I mean, I think that's pretty common knowledge by now. And thank you so much for having me on your program. Happy New Year to you.
Thanks. Happy New Year to you too. And you know, I remember sitting in campaign headquarters the first time that hashtag showed up on our social media. We talked. Feel the burn. So okay, now the thread is the circle is closed.
We broke into a little bit of a dark hole there. I couldn't hear the last part of your question.
Well, I hadn't gotten to a question yet, so let's just move forward and see how we do. First of all, I want to talk mostly about the year coming up, but what were your impressions of the past year as a movement? I consider you, one of my activist leading lights. What did you think of the last year from an activism and movement perspective?
Well, first of all, I want to congratulate all the millions of new activists who have joined this moment of resistance against white supremacy and really neo-fascism. So congratulations to all the millions of people in this country who are just coming into this work, because this is going to be a lifetime of work. We survived, the first year of this administration, so that's an achievement, I think. There were a lot of really unique moments that will be remembered in history. I think really on January 21st we mobilized 1.2 million people to take to the streets in New York, and 5 million people worldwide in the largest single day protest in history. To really send this administration a loud message that we're not going to take this, we're not going to take this like lying down, period, full stop. So I think that the spirit of protest resistance is very much alive, and I think that like a lot of the organizations that we work with have spent the past year really hunkering down and thinking about what an electoral strategy looks like in 2018 to win back some of these. Win back some of these key House seats, as well as really try to take back some of our governorship. There's done in 2018, and I think that people are really fired up, and I think that we learned some hard lessons from 2017, which is that we need to actually work together better, and we need to actually learn to share our resources better, and really the progressives united cannot be defeated. And that's actually true, and I hope that this year we'll be able to do that. That's my hope, and I think that a lot of these conversations are happening everywhere at different tables, at different activist tables, and you saw what we did during the GOP tax scam fight. We mounted a really full throttle, head-on resistance inside the Capitol, with both direct action and also other types of actions. And while we didn't win, of course, we were never going to win because we didn't have the votes, right? But we do have the narrative now, and that's very important. And we are now actually trying to connect that narrative to people in the country so that they understand that if we don't have the votes, it doesn't matter if we have the narrative, they're going to win. So that's where we're at right now. Lots of lessons learned, lots of fights ahead, and we're really excited to do this. We have no choice, really. It's not even about excitement. It's just about survival at this point.
Well, but I do say I love the positivity. You know, I've always been a strong believer that a positive revolution, a joyful movement for change, and I don't mean that in some, you know, lame way, but optimistic, positive, with a bright vision of the future has a much greater chance of succeeding. So I mean, I don't think we just should be white knuckling it. I think we should be. I think what you said. I think we should be excited. I'm excited. Am I? Does that sound Pollyanna-ish?
No, I mean, I think that you have to actually, you know, I mean, I think that like if you don't look forward, if you're not happy doing the work that you're doing, it won't work, you know. And I think that like for a lot of activists and for a lot of, you know, I'm going to use the term political operatives. I think they have really had a sort of come to Jesus moment where this year they're like, oh, I actually have to like serve humanity. And I will derive joy from doing that. And so I think there's been a shift there, you know, for a lot of people who have like viewed like activism as a career. For them, that has shifted. And that's very important. I mean, this is probably a more nuanced answer, and I'm probably known for being that way. But I think that's true. I think that it's actually about like a lot of people identifying what is activism, what does that really mean, right? Like that's service to each other, that's service to the planet, that's service to humanity. It's really important that we continue to like lift that veil, right, and operate from joy.
Yeah, and to say, you know, and I do, you know, people sometimes say, oh, it's so hard, the odds are so long, you know, there's so much chance for catastrophe. It's like, okay, we've been singled out by history. We've been singled out by history to do very, very important and critical work, and in a sense, it's an honor. We should be honored that we've been called upon to do this. You know what I mean?
I mean, I definitely feel that way. I can't believe how lucky I am, and I'm grateful every day that I'm able to like wake up and do this work. You know, people always ask me like, aren't you burnt out? Like you haven't taken a moment to pause or take a vacation, or you know, since Occupy, really, right? And I say no, because like I have like a home and I have heat and I have hot water and I have food and I have healthcare. Like I am in great health. This is you know, this is absolutely my duty, you know, to do this work, and I feel really grateful to be able to do it. And so that's actually how I feel. I mean, if I'm tired, then I go to sleep. If I'm hungry, then I eat food, you know. And the fact that I have access to both the bed and food is great.
Yep.
Because so many people in this country do not,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that has become, you know, so apparent now to everybody. And it will only become more apparent to people as we start to see really like society continue to tear apart. Because it's the greed of a very small amount of people on the planet.
Yeah, the spotlight is lit on these people now, and they're being seen for what they are. And so let's talk a little bit about 2018 then. What do you see coming up? I mean, I know none of us has a crystal ball, but I mean, what do you see as the kind of activism we should be looking for and fighting for and working for in 2018?
I think that women have been women have taken agency in a way that has not really happened in history ever. In 10,000 years of recorded this has been a first, and so this is not a trend that is going to be moving backward. There is no more regression here. You know, whether or not Mike Pence becomes the president and then decides to sort of impose more regressive laws on our bodies, it's not going to change where women as a whole are headed. And I think that you're going to see a lot of leadership coming from women, in particular women of color. And that's exciting. I think that, the BLM movement is really moving from protest into political power and forming tables and talking about what it looks like to have like a movement for Black Lives electoral strategy and an electoral campaigns that they support. So that's really exciting. I think that even our progressive orgs who have been a little bit, whose metabolism have not been as as good as they could have been in over the past few years are really starting to speed things up. That's really exciting. And I think that like the Democratic Party, the establishment, wing of the Democratic Party are starting to understand that they have to really like cede control at the levers, and that they can't win without us. And they understand now that like in order to win elections, they really have to support politicians and candidates who are running for office need to really support a progressive platform that is inclusive of race, gender, and class, right? That there's no such thing as like you're only going to win on race, you're only going to win on gender, you're only going to win on class. You actually have to have the candidates support a progressive platform that really emphasizes race, class, and gender. So that's good. I think we're looking at some exciting winnable races. I think that folks are really like looking at Beto O'Rourke to unseat Ted Cruz, and for Randy Bryce to unseat Paul Ryan. That would be, and I think that we have good people in those races that would just really shift everything dramatically leading up to 2020. And I think that the governorships, we have to support, the governors who are really unflinching in their support of Medicare for all, right? And we have those governors that are running. We have those governors-elect who are running. We have Ben Jealous in Maryland. We have Abdul El-Sayed in Michigan. We have Kathy Glasson, a nurse in Iowa, an SEIU nurse who is also endorsed by NNU Historical, who's running on a Medicare for All platform. If she becomes the governor of Iowa, that's a game changer, right? So there's a lot of work to be done. People are talking to each other. We're operating less out of silos now, and more in a cooperative, confederated manner. And so that's what we're looking at. We have to win. We have to win some key races in 2018 in order to not continue to let them demoralize us, because it actually has been a demoralizing couple of years,
Yeah. No.
And so yeah.
I agree with all of that, but there's one thing that keeps hanging over my head in all of this, and maybe I just need to change my social media feed or get off social media or something. but I still see a lot of sniping at the left from inside the Democratic tent, and I feel as if this kind of intentional undermining, it's not just bad for a political party, it's bad for the future. And I'm not sure, I haven't completely nailed down what my strategy is for dealing with that.
I mean, I think that, there are a lot of internecine fights like happening inside the party. And I think that like that has to end, or it will sort of like, it'll just completely implode and be very destructive. I think that a lot of people who are kind of looking at like the apparatus as being their ATM have to realize that they have to do better for the country and stop looking at it like that. If you don't know how to do something, then you should find other people who can do it better. And so a lot of like the undermining just really comes from, a small number of people who are really, in a sort of hoarding mode. They're hunkering down and hoarding like what they have access to and what they've traditionally had access to. And so, I think that you've seen some of those fights go down, and they're not even fights, they're like discussions, civil discussions, civil negotiations happening with the Unity Reform Commission, right? Like some of those reforms are going to be voted on early this year, and hopefully we'll see some changes within the party itself. But regardless of the party structure, the people on the outside of the party are influencing both culture and politics now. And so it's not like we are reliant upon them, to raise money. It's not like the Democratic Party ever gave a penny to Bernie Sanders. That's not what they did, right? It's not like any of the DSA candidates who have won local seats have received a penny from the Democratic Party. It's not like, it's not like we really need them. So we need to continue to build independent political power, which we are doing, and independent political institutions, which we are doing, and, kind of understand that, like, it's not either or. If they want to come with us, great, but we aren't necessarily going to walk through their door just because they open the door to us, because we know that once we go in, there's really no way of coming back out. That's sort of how I look at it, which is one of the things that I remind myself of. I don't I don't, certainly am not an establishment Democrat. We could say that. And I don't think that like most of the activists that are in my community and in yours would identify as such either, right? But we are, we're doing the right thing. We're saying we have to, Doug Jones has to beat Roy Moore, right? This is not complicated. It has to happen. We have to elect a Democrat, a liberal, to defeat the psychotic, like, pedophile who is a theocrat.
Right.
And we did that, right? And so, yeah, I mean, the undermining is going to continue, but I think that like that undermining is like led by a small number of people who are just really, they're just nervous and they're panicked and they don't know like what the future holds, And so I sort of look at it as I have empathy for them as humans, and I hope that they come to their senses.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said, Winnie, with one correction. I think they, in their heart of hearts, they do know what the future holds, and it's us.
Yes.
And so, okay, so change is tough. So I appreciate your attitude of compassion, because you're right, change is tough, and they're dealing with their world changing. And we're going to have to leave it there.
Change is really tough.
Yeah. But, Me Too, the Me Too movement. Yeah, people my age and older are saying, well, this isn't the way the social rules have always worked. Yeah, it's change. It's human existence. It's evolution. Get on board, or you miss the train.
Well, the system is changing, right? Like, I think
Sure.
that, like, I mean, I can say this on your show, and I could even say it, and I mean, I say it all the time. I mean, I think the system of capitalism needs to change. I mean, this is where we're at with it. Like, the whole system is completely broken, and it is just not working for anybody, except for a very small number of people. So we really have to start examining, like, what system change is going to look like, and that means really examining, like, all of the bureaucracies, all of the structures, all of the governing structures, all of that. I mean, we're living in exciting times. I mean, I think about this a lot as somebody who's like, not like, not that young, but also not that old. The fact that I've got to, probably do this for another 50 years or 40 years is interesting to me. And it makes me think a lot.
You're going to see a lot of interesting stuff, and you're going to see the world change. The world is changing, and I'm glad you're a part of it, Winnie Wong. So
thank you. I'm glad that you're a part of it as well.
Well,
So
good.
It's good to have you as an ally.